Good evening, everyone. My name is Bernie Schultz, and I'm the Ward 1 Fitchburg City Councilor. And this is our Ward 1 community meeting on February 16th, 2022. We've got a couple of outstanding guests tonight. We've got Russell Karlstad. He's the fairly new Director of Facilities for the City of Fitchburg. He's taking care of all of our facilities now. He's doing a fantastic job. And we also have Captain Patrick Roy, who is filling in for Chief Suarez. Chief might be along, but he wanted to make sure that someone was here to represent him in case he had an engagement out of town. So we hope that he'll join us at some point. At least that's what I was told. So we'll get started with Russell Karlstad, and he'll make a presentation. And then after he makes the presentation and Patrick Roy makes the presentation, they'll be able to answer questions, any questions you might have. So Russell, take it away.
Thanks, Councilman. As the new facilities director, the first, most people don't know what we do. We joke amongst ourselves is that we fix stuff you don't know is broken in a way you'll never understand, and call it a day. So that's how we like to operate. We like to operate behind the scenes, out of the spotlight, and just get stuff done. So we, as an industry, the facilities directors and managers, they take care of buildings and grounds and vehicles, and they can do IT. They handle real estate transactions. Anything that has to do with a building, whether you're constructing it, building it, fixing it, or operating it. We handle all of it, all the systems, everything else. So you have to have a fairly decent background in everything. Me personally, I started out, I was in the Coast Guard. I was a cook. And from the Coast Guard, I went into the Air Force, where I was a mobility NCO. From the Air Force, I went to the Navy, where I was a member of the CB group. And then I got out and I went to school for electrical engineering. And I left that, and I ended up getting educated in architecture. So I worked as an architect for a number of years, going to school, and I went to school nights for that. But I worked in a firm that did HVAC. So I was an architect student, designing HVAC system for buildings. My first design building that we did any work in was Mall of America. So I like to work on big stuff. That's basically where I came from. Then when we moved out to Arizona to do an early retirement, and then the economy crashed. So we ended up coming back here and with our tails between our legs. And I got into facilities because it was perfect. It encapsulated everything I did. For a city like Fitchburg, it's like every other city in the state and the country. There's a lot of buildings that haven't had the attention they need. And it's because it's not glamorous. And again, we work behind the seat, behind the lights. No one sees what we do. We don't holler for money. We just keep fixing stuff. So a lot of times things don't happen, and then you get behind the 8 ball, and you get a few situations where you got to deal with it. And that's what we are here in the city of Fitchburg. We're not too bad, considering some of the other cities and towns I've been in. But we do have some work that needs to be done. A couple of things we're doing now is we're going to do a lot of repairs on the senior center exterior and trying to get new windows over there. We're repairing the exterior of the police station. We're working on that plan. And the chief has some interior modifications. We're putting a whole new heating energy plant into the library in the spring because the original stuff has failed and has to be replaced. So those are some of the low-hanging fruits we're taking care of right now, in addition to all the energy-saving measures we're doing year to year. So that's the rough of it. Y'all are here in this new building, the new legislative building, which everybody loves. This is going to get a little transformed in the next couple of weeks because you can hear the sound as an echo. We're going to treat the walls to get rid of that echo. So in the next 4 to 6, 8 weeks, you'll see some paneling on these walls, decorative paneling that'll help with that sound problem we have in this building. So there's always something to fix, whether it's brand new or whether it's 300 years old. There's always something that needs to be done, and nothing's free, so you just got to plan right for it. So that's my gist. If anyone has any questions or wants to take me to a show and tell at school, I'm happy.
Questions? So you mentioned a couple of projects that you're working on, Russell. What do you think the future holds with some of the projects that we're looking at in the city? We've got some funding, some ARPA funding coming, and will you be involved with a lot of those projects, Russell?
My charge as the Director of Facilities in Fitchburg is I run all the construction projects in the city of Fitchburg. So I have my hands in everything, school side, city side. Any building work that's getting done, it comes through my desk. Right now, I'm working with the schools on the Crocker redesign, on the new Crocker school. So we've been making inquiries over there, improving the plan, trying to save some money, make it easier for it to operate long-term, that kind of thing. The projects that I've talked about, you know, I'll be running those from start to finish for all the buildings. A couple of years down the road, we're having an addition to the library, we're hoping. And any work we do now is going to stay part of the new addition, so, you know, we're just doing it ahead of time. We're not wasting any money on that, we're getting it done now. And yeah, so anything that happens to the city that's construction related for this city property, it comes across my desk, and I've got my fingers in it.
I'm just curious, do you spend more of your time in Ward 1 because it's Main Street? Or does it all over the place? I mean, some schools are in different wards, but do you spend...
Speak up a little bit.
Sorry, do you spend more time in one ward over another? I'm just curious.
I deal with the city buildings, whichever ward they're in. You know, I've been in here about a little over a year. I'm not quite sure where the ward lines are in the city, but any school building, any city building, fire department buildings, all that stuff, all the Main Street properties. We also are involved with the tax repo buildings and stuff in the city, so we work with the Treasurer's Department on that. If something has to go to sale or whatever, we're all involved in that process and doing minor repairs on them, get them ready for sale, things like that. So I'm in all the districts. And I am at the Department of 1 right now, so people don't see a lot of me. So.
Any plans to get some help for your department?
Interesting you said that. Yeah, I've put in for an additional staff, tech level person to help out with the repairs in the city, just to offset calling in outside help. Because everything's so expensive today, it makes sense to have someone qualified and skilled and talented on your staff that can go do a plumbing fix or an electric fix, do some paint, fix some drywall, you know, fill in for someone who's out sick, all those kind of things. So we tried to get it last year, but it was a little tight on budget, and we're going to try to get it in this year, and hopefully we get it. If not, we understand that everything's driven by the tax dollar, and we're really cognizant of that fact when we spend money every day.
Yeah, electrician would be helpful, especially with the street lights and some of the other things that go on in the city.
Right. We're what's called a green community, a green city community here in the state of Massachusetts. So we get a sum of money from the state every year. Not a lot, but it's a little bit of money, and it does energy upgrades. So last year, this current year that we're in, we used the 200 and something thousand to do energy upgrades at the schools, and only one small project is getting done in a city building at one of the fire stations. This coming year, coming up, our planning is going to be, all that money is going to go to the city buildings. The school's going to get nothing. It's just fair. And we're going to do lighting upgrades. The DPW building needs a lot of work. So I told them we'll get them some new lighting, try to get them some new controls over there, make it a little more comfortable for them. You got to dish it out where you can. It's not a bottomless pit.
Any other questions for Director Halstead? I have a question. I get a lot of inquiries about the theater block and how far along we are with Fitchburg Theater, and you know we see money coming in. We got I saw $3 million recently, and they're up for more money from ARPA if it's approved. Have you touched that project recently?
No, I haven't been involved in that. That's still working through, the mayor's office and through community development. And as you saw, it was posted today about another $300,000 or something was granted to the theater community. I saw that on Facebook somewhere. So that's all on the college side. But while I was an architect, I used to design theaters. It's one of the jobs I did. a lot of theaters on cruise ships, as a matter of fact. So I've offered my services to the college if they need any help or assistance in it, just to help review the plans and make sure they go in the right direction. So we'll see what happens. It's a long time between now and then.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah. All right. One final question, anyone? Are we all set?
Guess my age. Go ahead. Guess my age.
Guess my age.
No,
You were talking about the library,
yes.
and there's an addition getting put on?
Yeah, they're working towards an addition on the children's side. That's public information. Sharon has some preliminary plans that they've looked at. The work we're doing for the power plant is going to augment that. So we're sizing everything to work to whatever they build, so nothing will be wasted. And that's one of the preconditions I put into the whole project. Nothing gets done that's getting tossed out. Everything's a 30, 40-year look ahead.
Is there a place where we can go to see what they're thinking of doing?
It's not final yet. I know that down there in her office, she's got some of the preliminary design work done. But it's nothing that is actually what the final product's going to be, because as you're going through an early stage, stuff changes a lot. So they've put out some information, but they don't put out everything they have because they just don't want to get any preconceived notions out in the public, because that's a bus you can't stop.
On the children's side, there's not all those space.
Yeah. So it's going to be a nice new building. The direction they're going. It's a nice, efficient building, and it'll work well for them.
You mentioned that the city's a green city. Is there any requirements in place that when public buildings are getting renovated that things like solar are considered?
Oh, glad you
There's a lot of horizontal spaces that the city owns, or even the parking garage on the street, we have some solar panels over it, you come to the garage at the same time.
Yeah, we are working with the schools right now, and Longjo is going to get populated with solar panels. We're just doing some roof condition assessments. And at the high school, we're going to build a canopy parking structure that's solar. Myself personally, I'm not a huge fan of rooftop stuff because you need a huge roof.
Yeah.
And they cause problems. You might have seen that fire. There was a rooftop fire from a solar panel recently. And for the firefighters will back me up on that, is it's a DC power that's always live.
Yes.
And it can kill somebody. You mix DC with water and someone's going to get hurt. So what we have just done is, and we are in just the early stages, is to getting some more solar power option equivalencies. And so if everything works out the way it does, the city of Fitchburg will be getting 88% of their electric power generated by solar panels. 88%. That's huge. And so hopefully that all comes to fruition. There's a couple of projects that haven't quite been finalized yet. So that's going to take anywhere from 6 to 12, 14 months. And I let the mayor's office know that last week, and this is something that's coming down the line. So we're very excited to see that we are that far ahead of the rest of the people around here on that side. Of course, the rate, we can't do anything about the rates.
Yeah.
This will stabilize our costs moving forward, and in today's dollars, it's about $1.5 million saved over 20 years. No.
Renovation. It's going to be paid for a $12 million grant that we're in line for the ninth library and library grant. Some ARPA money that you'll see on your budget, the Rescue Plan Act, about $6.5 million. The $12 million going from the city and $3 million raised money. So it's not just an addition there, they're looking to completely renovate the entire library in the next few years. I'm Derek Cruz, I'm the Ward 6 City Councilor.
Okay. All right, Russell, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And,
Anytime you have anything, let me know.
Okay, thank you, Russell. Patrick, would you like to go next? Thank you.
Great. I guess the chief's not going to make it, so.
Yep.
Good job.
My name is Patrick Roy. I'm very, very honored to be here. I grew up in Ward 1. I grew up on Walton and Ellis Street and lived there most of my life until we moved to High Rock Road. I actually went to school with the councilor's daughter all through Fitchburg Public Schools. And I think you can talk to any of my teachers. My dream job was the Fitchburg Fire Department, and I wanted nothing else. So, and some of my grades showed that, by the way. But it's such an honor to work for the city and work for the fire department. And I guess I'll just give you a rundown of kind of a day-to-day operation and
Yep.
what our goals are. We shouldn't really be called the fire department anymore. We should be called emergency services because we encompass so many different problems and fires these days. Back in the 70s and 80s, the Fitchburg Fire Department was dealing with multiple fires. When my father was on, my Uncle Kevin, as some of you may know, and my grandfather, they were going to fires, and that was a majority of their work. Now we encompass everything from dive rescue to technical rescue, confined space, high angle, low angle. We still do fires. We still do a very great deal of fires for a city of our size. And our firefighters love the city. They take great pride in being firefighters in this city. And we make it work no matter what. I think we've been a little bit understaffed for some time, and I think that the chief is working to try to build that up to some extent. We also understand the money ain't falling from the sky, but, and there's other departments in the city. However, we have one ladder company, which we are trying to replace. Our ladder is currently, our oldest ladder is 20-something years old, and it does a lot of work in this city. And the guys are great, and we maintain our vehicles to the best of their, that we can, but eventually they do get old. And they're very expensive, we know that, but in order to deliver the best possible emergency services to the city, we need to upgrade the vehicles every now and then. As far as day-to-day operation, our firefighters are training twice a day on shift. We have two strenuous activities of training, whether we're doing, it could be a scenario-based training, it could be hazmat training, it could be anything we need to do to better ourselves. We know that we have the marijuana facilities now in the city, and those are unique facilities because they pose a hazmat risk if anything goes wrong. You can't go into certain rooms, and our firefighters are trained to do that. And we're going to deliver the best possible care we can to our citizens, as well as EMS. I think the goal of the fire department, my grandfather started this back in the 80s and 90s, is to take the ambulance over. I think that's a revenue that the city is missing out on. I think we're compared a lot to Leominster, and I think Leominster is running 2 ambulances right now, and they're making a great deal of money, almost $2.5 million that they're making for the city of Leominster, and I think we could do that as well, hopefully, down the road. As far as the department itself, we run about 10,000 plus calls a year. We're the busiest by far in central Massachusetts, other than Worcester, who's a much larger city than us. And like I said, our firefighters are trained in whatever your problem is, in 4 minutes or less, you're gonna have somebody at your door that's trained to do anything. And if not, they're gonna find somebody that can help you do that. And we're a very aggressive department. I would put our firefighters up against anybody in the state, hands down, even the biggest cities, because our guys are professional, they're well-trained, and, and I don't know if you can tell by the way I'm talking, but I love this city and I love the department, and I wouldn't trade it for anything at all. So we're very busy day to day, and actually, Councilor Cruz, I think you did a ride-along, and it was, there's busy days where we're trying to do all this training in and out of calls, and there's days where we get some really good training in, but lately we've worked through the pandemic. When other city departments were at home working from home, our firefighters were coming to work every day. Didn't matter what was going on. We were delivering normally what we expect to deliver to the citizens of Fitchburg, and that's the best possible care there is and the fire suppression there is for the city. So.
Thank you, Captain Roy. Any questions for Captain Roy?
Well, given that you're training so regularly, are there certificates that are required, or do firefighters get certificates for these trainings?
Absolutely. Every firefighter is required to go, before their first year is up, to the Massachusetts Fire Academy, which is basically a 10-week boot camp to train on the basics of firefighting. When they come back to the city, they're a probationary firefighter for a year, and they get more training. They work with our senior firefighters and our senior officers, and they train them to our city. We have a very unique water system in the city. We have very unique buildings. A lot of three-deckers, a lot of 2.5-story buildings. Other cities and towns aren't dealing with it. And we've got buildings that are very close together. So when we get a fire, we've really got to get our act together. We've got to make sure we're protecting not only the fire building and the people in it, but the buildings to either side. So yes, and there's multiple certificates that everybody has to be certified in: dive, fire, technical rescue. It doesn't just, you don't just get on and then that's the end of it. So yes, yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Maybe, Captain Roy, for the viewers at home that might want to become a firefighter someday, maybe you could tell them how you got into, you mentioned earlier that you were an EMT before you got on the
Yes,
fire department. Maybe you
absolutely.
could
I would.
tell them how what your journey was like.
First of all, being from Fitchburg and growing up here, I think that anybody that gets on the fire department should live in the city and should be a resident of this city. And I think that you need to get your EMT, absolutely. That's the first thing, and get some experience as an EMT. The civil service exam is just a basic exam to test your abilities to be a firefighter. They hold it every 2 years, I believe, and a list comes out, and that's the certified list. But I would get your EMT. Go to Mount Wachusett Community College. They have a fire science degree program. Quinn Sigmund in Worcester. And if you wanted to go the 4-year degree route, you can go to Anna Maria College in Paxton. And I think that I know how it can be. You want to be a firefighter in the worst way. And any class I could take, I would take because I wanted to be there. And I think young kids, if you're motivated enough, you can come down to the department. There's plenty of firefighters that'll point you in the right direction. Another thing is the military. If you get points if you go to the military and come out and take the test, and I think that's honorable. And you go to the top of the list as a military veteran, and your EMT will help you that much more. There's been a lot of firefighters that come out of Ward 1. I know that for sure. So.
I'm still in Ward 1. I grew up in Ward 1 just like you did.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Captain Roy?
The resources or programs that are provided by the fire department that are not being utilized by the residents?
I think not really any programs. I know that every now and then they do have a smoke detector program for elderly residents in which they can come down and get smoke detectors if they need them to be, they need smoke detectors. And anytime that any resident has any concerns, they can just call us and we'll be there. I can honestly say anything from a lockout of your vehicle, a house lockout, to gas leaks and water leaks. It's like I said, we really encompass everything, and we're proud to do it. We're happy to do it for the citizens of Fitchburg, and anything we can do to help. And
Programs where you're more proactive, where you're offering either education or assistance in getting things like fire extinguishers for kitchens. And that should be something that every house should have. I'm sure in the city, percentage is real low. Just because either realize you should have one, the importance of having one, smoke detectors, another thing. I think, it's advertised, you see it on TV or in the paper about the smoke detectors, but that's getting involved where you're educating them in personally about how important they are, or the importance of replacing them every 6 or 8 years because they do expire, right?
yes, absolutely.
Things like that.
Lieutenant Jordan is a phenomenal asset to our department. He's the fire prevention captain. Unfortunately, he's retiring in a couple weeks. But he has done, Matt Fraticelli, firefighter Fraticelli, and firefighter Nick Landry, they do the SAFE program. They're in schools, and they even teach elderly to do the fire extinguishers. And we have a prop that retired Lieutenant Liberatore had purchased before he left, so we can do live, hands-on training. And we're very proactive. We're in the public all the time. We're in, I think, as you know, elderly, both 54 Wallace Ave, 16 Pritchard Street. Our fire prevention office was going out to these places to give fire prevention talks and you know, to make the city as safe as possible. And, you know, and I think it's working. I think it's great. However, we do have to recognize that the building that's going on in the city is, although it's great, the Morton Square project, Game On, we have to realize that this is also bringing multiple people into the city, and our emergency responses are going up. Plus, we got construction workers doing very dangerous work, so we might have to go to a confined space, to a high-angle rescue, a construction worker that's injured, and we're trained for that. And our firefighters, I don't care what the emergency is, we're gonna figure it out, we're gonna get it done.
Like a program where, you know, homeowners that have a fire extinguisher that's expired, needs to be
Absolutely.
recharged. You know, an easy way where they can come down to the fire station and be able to swap it out, or, you know, like a reduced price for getting one done, so it encourages them to get it, right? Like smoke detectors that have expired. It's a
Absolutely.
program that encourages them, if you come down to the fire station with your expired smoke detector, you can get one at a discounted price or free, depending if it's an elderly home.
Right,
Probably free,
right.
because they don't have a fixed budget as it is.
And-
Things like those about promote, you know, being aware of these items that have been put in, required in a home, but they're not, right? I mean, smoke detectors we know are, especially in
Yes.
new construction, but fire extinguishers are not.
They're
They
not,
should be.
you're right.
They should be required in kitchens, just because that's a space that, you know, a fire can break out very easily, especially open flame gas, right? That's-
Absolutely, we do multiple food in the stoves, where there's fire in the stoves, and believe it or not, they're actually very dangerous fires for not only the occupant, but our firefighters, because of the smoke that is coming off the stove, and we're inhaling that. And I did a cancer lecture, due to my father. My father passed away from cancer in the fire service, and it's something we take very seriously. And I agree with you. If people do have questions, they can come down Monday through Friday to the fire station, 8 to 4, and all of our fire prevention or our clerks will be able to point them in the right direction, whether to recharge an extinguisher, where to get it, how to get it. And if they have an issue with it, we would be able to work with them somehow to make it work, you know?
The encouraging of all that is important. And that's one thing I don't really see a lot of like this, where it's citywide, where it's like, you know, hey, you know, they have the cleanup days, right?
Yep.
That'd be a great thing, where if you have a fire extinguisher that's expired, there's a representative in the fire department that can assist you with either A, swapping it out, or, you know, or just disposing it if they need to dispose of it, or the case may be.
Absolutely.
I think it's important. And
Absolutely.
Those are
That's a
ideal
great
times to
idea.
do, you know, or when there's the block party, certain days here in the street, in Main Street, have that information available where, hey, you know, if you have smoke detectors that are expired, you know, it's 6 or 8 years, or 10 years, depending on with minor batteries and that. But
Yeah.
either way, you know, offer a program where they can get, it's not so disruptive, or they're not gonna bother doing it. There's a lot of homeowners that don't bother doing it, it's like, I don't wanna drive all the way to Home Depot and deal with letters of traffic, it's a pain.
Yeah,
So go
absolutely.
to Lowe's, just even worse, right? So,
However, I would recommend that take those extra few minutes to go to the Home Depot if it comes down. You know what I mean? Get it, you know, yes, I agree, the traffic is not ideal, but, you know,
I'm sure that there's a lot of residents in the city that just don't bother, because it's an hindrance.
Yep.
But,
yep. And that's a great idea. It really is a great idea, and
yeah, I think it would help out, you know,
I think we're very, out of most of the departments in the city, though, I believe we're very proactive. You know, we're not reactive, we're very proactive, and our firefighters are willing to help, and
my time in Fitchburg, which is coming up on, 15, 16 years now, and I've seen it, it's definitely, and I came from Cambridge, Cambridge is a pretty good fire department.
yes, they're very good, and they got everything you could ever imagine.
Really much bigger city and have a lot of money.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But, it's these small things I think would make a big difference where it's like, go the next step.
Yeah.
It would be helpful. 'Cause I
And-
have a fire
and-
extinguisher that I moved in, it was there, and I bought the house, and it needs to be replaced, and I know it does. I'm like, I gotta get to that.
But the other end of that is that the fire department doesn't want people fighting the fires. They want them to get everybody out of the house safely, meet across the street and call us. And that's what because what tends to happen is people try to put fires out. It delays them calling us. It delays us responding. And then by the time we get there, a fire that could have been put out with an extinguisher now is extending, and we need to do, there's more water damage, there's more everything. So the quicker you can initiate the call and get everybody out of the house, the quicker we get there, the quicker we put the fire out and hopefully get you back into that house. And I think that might be kind of one of the factors into not being able to switch out. We want you to be safe.
Catch-22 then is, an extinguisher is kind of something you should have in the house, because it's safety.
I don't disagree. For a small fire, for a very small fire, yeah.
On the call is kind of counterintuitive to the reason of having a fire extinguisher.
I think the
Like
position
a grease
of,
fire is a perfect example where
yes, yeah.
that'd be perfect for it, right? Since a grease fire, you put it out really quick with the right powder, and be done with it.
And I would say, like I said, I think I agree with you as long as the call's being made right away. Yeah. And if, because we've had a lot of instances where I've got the fire out and then we go and then it's not out. And yeah, we've had some very big fires that could have been stopped quickly, had we been called right away. So.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Patrick, you mentioned earlier about the ambulance service that Lummester generates $2.5 million a year.
Yes.
Maybe you could describe for everyone what we have here now, because we do have EMTs that work for this. We do have vehicles that do respond to emergencies and.
Yes.
And
Yep.
maybe you could just fill everybody in on what we do have in the city of Fitchburg.
Absolutely. Councilor, we have, we have 4 engines and a ladder company. We have 81 firefighters that are trained. All of them are EMTs. We used to have a few of the old timers, that weren't EMTs because they didn't have to be at the time. But we run with MedStar Ambulance. We have 2 dedicated medic units, one in Oak Hill District and one in Downtown District. And we have Rescue 3, which is manned by 2 firefighters. Anytime there's an ALS call, we send the rescue unit and the medic unit. And by ALS, I mean advanced life support, difficulty breathing, chest pain. If the rescue happens to be tied up, we send an engine company with that because we want our firefighters on scene. We want our firefighters delivering the best care possible for our citizens of Fitchburg. And, MedStar does a phenomenal job. Their ALS is great, and we get to know a lot of these people. However, I think it's an avenue that the city could look into and end up taking over baby steps, and in the long run, end up making money. I believe the city of Leominster does a phenomenal job, and we do about the same amount of calls as them, if not more. And, our number one goal is to deliver the best possible care to the citizens of Fitchburg. It's not about the dollar. So please don't take it that way. However, if we can make money, an avenue of revenue for the city, we certainly want to do it. My grandfather started that back in the late 80s, early 90s. They voted for the municipal ambulance service, but they didn't vote to fund it. So now we're a rock and a hard place. We end up having an ambulance now that MedStar pays for, and we man it with 2 firefighters. It's great. It seems to work right now, but certainly if you look at any fire service in the area, they're running the ambulance, and there's a reason they're running the ambulance. If they weren't making money, the cities and towns wouldn't run an ambulance, And if the city fronts a little bit of money and we end up looking into it, I think it could make a lot of money back. Our firefighters work very hard. The rescue company is one of the busiest companies in the city, hands down. They're doing about 6,000 runs a year, 7,000 runs a year, and that averages about 15, anywhere from 10 to 15 runs a day, if not more. So the college keeps us pretty busy at times. So, but we love it. The place is beautiful up there. It really is. So, you know, we're giving the best possible effort, but I think we're missing out on some revenue in the city, in my opinion.
Thank you, Patrick.
How do we go about then getting the
I think,
ambulance service?
I think we have to start by looking at billing companies, and it has to be outsourced. What seems to happen is if the city does the billing, you see somebody you know come through, and you're like, oh, well, you know, and stuff like that. You try to take care of people. However, the billing companies bill the insurance, not the person. So you're making the money, and we would really have to bring somebody in to look at it and say, this is what Fitchburg needs. This is the money that we need to upfront to start to staff an ambulance and get it running. And to be honest, at this point, I don't think it would be that difficult. I think it's just kind of a lot of administrative work because we're already running an ambulance, so.
So we need public support, so I would call.
Oh, absolutely. I think that the mayor, the councilors, right down to the people in the city would have to be on board. That's what I would recommend anyways. You know, obviously, if the people don't want it, then, you know, we've got a pretty good system, but, you know, I think we're really missing out on some revenue.
Yeah. Related to his question about what can you do for the community, Fitchburg Fire Department used to provide, not for free, but a minimal cost of CPR and first aid, training. Early educators have to be CPR certified every year.
Yep.
And it's a very costly venture for individuals and programs. And wonder if you could reinstitute that. The fire department used to do that under Chief Roy
Yes,
a few times.
we have multiple firefighters that are trained in CPR to teach it. I mean, and they do it on their own usually, and that is certainly something that I can bring to Chief Suarez. And
Main Street.
yeah, I mean, I think that's that's a proactive point as well as the extinguishers are. I think that's awesome because how many times you see a defibrillator on the wall and who knows how to use it, you know, and at all these sporting events, and we've seen multiple cases throughout the country of kids getting hit just the right way, and now you've got to shock their heart back into rhythm, and if there's trained people on scene, that makes our job a lot easier.
Well, our need is pediatric first aid.
Yeah,
Pediatrics
yeah.
would be on first aid, but I mean, it would just be so helpful to those educators in the city.
Absolutely, and I will
89
definitely, that's certainly something I'll bring back to
We have 87 programs in the city.
That's, yes, I mean, Busy Bee, and, you know, we love going to those schools, and the educators do such a tremendous, believe me, I was teaching my kids at home through this pandemic, and I'm not a teacher, let me tell you that. Gained a lot of respect for the teachers, I'll tell you, you know, because, and my kids are smarter than I am, so that, you know, that's another thing, but, absolutely, I certainly will, That's a great idea, absolutely. No, thank you. These are great ideas.
So Patrick, you mentioned firefighters going into the school. Maybe you could describe how that works. I remember when I was in school in Fitchburg, we used to, you know, we're going to renovate the Fitchburg Theater that was mentioned earlier. We used to go down to the Fitchburg Theater and watch a fire movie and get a plastic fire hat back in the day.
It hasn't changed much, to be honest with you. It hasn't changed much because, you know, we've got such a young department now, though, and a lot of guys and girls now have children, and so they're pretty good with it. My kids go to St. Bernard's Elementary, and they look forward to the firefighters coming in so much, and I think it's so awesome when they can communicate with the firefighters and see a person, because when we come to their house, we're all geared up. I can only imagine it's pretty terrifying. Yeah, for a young kid. But our firefighters do a great job. Like I said, firefighter Fraticelli, firefighter Landry, Lieutenant Jordan. These guys are awesome. They've taken class after class, And they're out in the schools, they're out in the public. They do the smokehouse, which some kids get scared of, but they sit right with them. And we have kids come up years later and said, hey, you used to teach the fire program, and the guys take a lot of pride in that, the guys and girls. I say guys, and I'm being, adult, but we have, guys, girls, doesn't matter. The Fitchburg Fire Department does such a great job in the schools, and we love going out. We love it. Each company gets assigned a school, and we go to the schools, and we play a video, answer questions, and some of the questions these kids come up with are really awesome. We end up laughing about them at the end of it, but they're great, and we love talking with them. And the teachers in the city, Debbie Mulcahy or Jeffries, who's one of the ones that gets us up to Crocker quite a bit in South Street, which is where I went. It's great to go back to these schools, and unfortunately now we're to the point where some of the teachers that went to school with me, and unfortunately getting old sometimes, but these firefighters doing a tremendous job in getting the word out there, and hopefully the kids are taking it back to their parents, which the smoke detectors, a meeting spot outside the house, if the smoke detectors go off, not to stay there. And some of our kids are doing better than some of the adults, to be honest with you. We find the kids outside, and my dad's in there, still trying to do something, and it's like, it shows that the guys are doing a great job.
Well, we've got some scouts here from a local troop, Patrick. We haven't heard from them. Is it any of the scouts would like to ask Captain Roy a question that you've been listening to his presentation, and maybe
I will say that I started as explorer in the Fitchburg Fire Department through the Scouts. Probably 13 or 14 of us, and of those 13 or 14, I bet 10 of them are on the department right now. So it's honorable that you guys are doing that, and stick with it. There's so many scholarships for Scouts out there when you get up to the high school level and everything. Obviously, I wish I would have paid attention a little more. Yeah, but yeah.
we have a mother of a scout here whose Eagle Scout project, he just became an Eagle Scout, was to put reflectors on all the fire hydrants in Ward 1.
Yes, and you don't know how important that is, Counselor, because especially, we have storm after storm. We've been pretty lucky this year, but, we pull up to a fire and how's it going? Like, where's the hydrant? It's buried. Ashby State Road is a big one. It doesn't matter. The plow, the DPW does a tremendous job, and they got to take care of the streets, but the hydrants are, to have those reflectors, we know where it is. It might take us a little bit to dig it out, but that he should be commended more than just the Eagle Scout.
Well, congratulations to Patrick McWalter for getting his
absolutely,
Eagles, becoming
absolutely.
an Eagle Scout.
And we had a couple guys help him with that, and
yeah, there was quite a crew. I was there when.
Because it's such an asset to our department, and to help us locate hydrants in the winter, which it's no easy task this time of year.
I do have to say, driving around Ward 1 as a mother, I've noticed that the plow drivers can see them, so they're not as crowded in our ward.
Yeah, and sometimes you'll get the plow drivers that are, the DPW is excellent. If we have a fire or anything, they're there right away, sanding, salting. I think every department now, from the police to the fire we work so well together when there's a big incident. But if they see a hydrant, they'll try to plow out anything that, but those reflective, that saves lives. Without a hydrant, without water, we're nothing, you know what I'm saying? So he should be commended,
Okay. Any last questions for Captain Roy before we depart and go our merry way?
I was just going to say, in September of 2020, the fire department saved my husband's life, so.
Oh.
So. Yeah, he was having a heart attack, and the ALS side of everything came a fire department, and they knew not to bring him to Leominster. They took him right to UMass. So if they didn't think,
I'm sure,
It's not that daily, but
No, you know, and that's their job, and that, I'm glad that it worked, and the guys take great pride in it, and I'm sure those guys were very excited, and I'm saying guys, and we have female firefighter, we all call each other guys anyways, it doesn't matter, but that's what the Fitchburg Fire Department is about, the pride, the tradition. We have a lot of tradition, and really, it's the best job in the world, and I'm sure somebody would argue with me, but I'm telling you, I tell everybody I'm living the dream, and I really am. It's the best job, you know? So I'm glad it was a great outcome. I'm glad.
Well, thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. I appreciate it, and I want to tell you about the next Ward 1 meeting that we're going to have here in this building at 6:30 p.m. It's going to be Monday, March 14th, 2022, and we're going to have the building commissioner, Mark Barbadoro, come, as well as the DPW commissioner, Nick Erickson. So they'll be here to make presentations and to also answer questions. So thank you for coming out on this cold evening, and good night.